Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
We will continue our discussion today where we had left off last time, which was typesetting the preliminary pages of a fairly sort of standard, not very complicated book. We were working on typesetting, imaginarily typesetting a volume of short stories. I have done one of the short stories with you, and we were discussing how this now has become the half title page. We arrived at this after the discussion that I had, where I said that we do the preliminary pages right at the end of the entire typesetting process, because by then we have decided what are the typefaces that we are using in the book, what kind of margins we are having, etc. So we can choose from those fonts, from those families, when we ultimately cull and sort of distill our typographic elements into the preliminary pages. Even though the preliminary pages is what the reader looks at first, because that comprises the front matter of the book, as designers, we usually tend to do them at the end, once most of the design decisions have been taken regarding that publication. For this particular book, you will remember that I did a right click on what was then page 1 on the page layout, which is on the right of the screen, and I got a menu that gave me various options. It said insert or delete, etc., etc., and I chose insert pages, and we inserted 6 pages at the front of the book. So I had said insert 6 pages before page 1, and the calculation for that was half title page, then which is page 1, then page 2 is the frontispiece page, which in this case is blank, page 3 is the full title page, page 4 is the copyright page or the title verso, page 5 will serve as our table of contents, and we must always end the preliminary pages on the left hand side. The preliminary section, the front matter section, must always end on the left hand side in order for us to have page 1 beginning on the right. Therefore, even if there is no text left over, page 6 must be often your last page, or a blank left hand side page must be where your preliminary pages end. Here, now focusing on our screen, we can see how we have our half title page here. We have the title of the book, and I had said we can do this in a slightly smaller typeface, so we have gone with 12. This typeface, which is a non-serif or a sans serif typeface, is the same as the one we have used for the running heads and the footfolio. Now we see, oh dear, this has become very small. We see page 2 and page 3. At this moment, we don't have any text to appear on page 2, so we leave it blank, and we must put all of the people who made the manuscript on page 3. This is known as the title page. I showed you how we can reuse the same typeface that we have used inside the book so that we can create this effect of serif and non-serif right from the beginning of the book, so that the readers, as soon as they start opening up the front matter pages, while they are browsing through the book, the readers get the idea already that, oh, this book actually uses 2 typefaces, and each object is separated from the other. The author is important, so the author is right on top. Then you have the title, and then you have the name of the translator. Each distinct entity, the typefaces on this page can in fact be quite large compared to the rest of the book, because this whole page we are treating as a display page. So you can use up to 14, 16, 18, whatever you want to use. Please note the text hierarchy. The author's name is first, then we have the title, and then the translator a little away. They each have their own space that they're occupying, and then I have used a black circle at the bottom of the page to let you know that this is roughly where the logo will appear. I am simply indicating the presence of the logo and its position, and everything on this page right now is center aligned text. The next page, which is page 4, this page, which is where roughly we had concluded our previous lecture, this page is page 4, otherwise known as the title verso or the copyright page. And the information that you have now on the page is the bare minimum but mandatory information that must appear in every book. The name of the publication, the publishing house, and the name of the publisher, the copyright for the original language text in the case of a translation, otherwise at least the English text or whichever language you're publishing in. It could be Hindi original copyright such and such, Marathi original copyright such and such, and so on and so forth. We must have the ISBN number, which is the International Standard Book Number, and without which no book is kind of going to be able to have later from the ISBN we generate a barcode, and a barcode has become vital for all accounting systems that keep track of the movement of books, not only across a city, across a country, and often across the world. And then in India, it is mandatory to give the name and address not only of the publishing house, but also of the person in charge, the person in that house who is functioning as a publisher. And then also we must give credit to the people who have typeset and designed this book, because remember, there is no other place where their name can appear. And we must credit the printing press that has printed and bound this book, because again, there is no other place where they can be given credit. And I had also pointed out to you and used from the paragraph bar extra paragraph space after every cluster of information, because I had said, and I still believe, that if you are an intelligent book designer, an intelligent typesetter, you will also pay attention to the title verso. Most designers ignore it. They think it's very boring text that nobody is going to read. But each line is actually very important, and therefore the clusters of information are intelligently separated from one another so that you can read them very clearly. The ISBN number is not the same as the publisher's name. That is not the same as the typeset and design credit. So each bit of information inhabits its own space, and we do that just by cleverly using space after. The page that faces the title verso is the table of contents page, right? Now we call it the table of contents, but we just simply write contents on the top of the page. We never say actually table of contents. Just the word contents is enough. I would now like to again reuse this body text, this non-serif font. So I come onto the first page of my story, I copy this and I take it up to page 5. As you'll see, the cursor is flashing, and I paste it. I want to use this as my display title across the book. I have used it therefore on my half title, I have used it here on my title page, and now the word contents, as I write it here, the word contents is going to also be a display title on this page, and therefore I am reusing the same font. Now, so far, if you'll notice, this page, the half title, has followed the center alignment. If you come to the bottom of the screen, you will see the centered alignment has been chosen. This page follows the center alignment. Later, if I look down here into my story, we have instinctively also followed the center alignment over here. So it is up to me, if I wish, my contents can also be center aligned, and so can my title verso, if I so wish. I absolutely can decide to have it like this. I can also, if I wish, depending on the kind of book I am doing, sometimes have my title verso aligned this way. It's perfectly all right, but always remember that your title verso appears in relation to the table of contents. So, if this is right aligned, that should be left aligned, and so on. Try and respect it whether people read the title verso or not. It will always appear in relation to the facing page, which will have the table of contents. Now, in order to arrive at the table of contents, often the table of contents is part of your body text. If not, sometimes you may have to create it. In this case, we know that the name of the first story is Butterfly, B, Crocodile. So, I type it up here, right? And if I want to center align it, I make sure that the text I am typing is like so. I press enter and I put the name of the second story, whatever it is, and then I put a paragraph and I put the name of the third story, and so on, right? Maybe there are 5 stories, maybe there are 10 stories, so on and so forth. Here are my table of contents. Maybe this book only has 3 stories, absolutely no problem. At the first line, remember, we must have a page number. Let's say this must begin at page 1. I come to the name of the story. I increase, look at the bottom of my screen. I've gone to the paragraph tab and I'm going to increase the space after to 0.3 so that each story is clearly visible, and maybe this will begin at 35. Again, I come to the second story and I give it an increased space after, and here again I can put the name of the next story. It's already there and I'll pretend it starts at page 57, and so on. I have just created a center aligned table of contents. Because I have only 3 stories, I can take the decision, there's enough room on the page, perhaps the space after between each story can be in fact even increased. There is nothing more that's going to come on that page. So, here I put 0.5 and each story is very, very clear to the eye. If I want, I can select my page numbers and I can make them, if you will remember, that semi-bold that we had used. So, I can keep semi-bold here, bold may become too heavy. Here we are, 3 numbers in semi-bold. So, the numbers are a little distinct from the names of the stories. Please observe that I am using the body text font, body text size for the table of contents. The title verso text is allowed to be 1 size smaller. So, in this case, I had it at 11 because that was my body text size, but now I decrease it once to 10. This is perfectly fine and in fact quite advised. Copyright page, title verso page, the text can be 1 size smaller. Now, having done this, I have another option if I want to be a little more stylized. Another option is to check what this font is. It was Avenir Next Medium, and I can have a non-serif combination even here as part of my page numbers, just to give it a slightly different look. This is by no means mandatory, but you do have the presence of another typeface already in your design, and you can use it intelligently like this then to perpetuate the idea of the serif and the non-serif. Okay? This is done. Now, what I earlier was saying about the relation between the title verso and the table of contents, I am going to give you a demonstration of it. Here I have selected my contents and I choose to make it left aligned. I find if my title verso is right aligned, then my table of contents can be left aligned like this. Another option is this is left aligned, this remains left aligned. Please see how I am looking at the 2 pages in relation to one another, right? I can also say if this is left aligned, why not have this right aligned like this? How lovely that looks, right? So, they are like the 2 text portions are like 2 brackets on either side of the entire white area. And of course, you may also then say, oh, this is all becoming terribly fancy and complicated. Most of my headings, my display headings, my title page, my half title page, all of that has been center aligned. So I don't want to fuss, I don't want to muss. Let's just stick to the center alignment, and even that is perfectly okay. So here we are, and we go back to the classic formation. Bear in mind, table of contents starts from the top of the text box. The title verso information always sits at the bottom of the text box, right? Title verso never starts from the top. So once you bring all the information in, come down here and choose the text box option, and there you will get the middle alignment, bottom alignment, top alignment, and so on. The minute you choose bottom alignment, as you can see on my screen, your text will jump to the bottom of a box. Now, we have finished with our table of contents, and now we have a blank page on this side, which is page 6, and our story is beginning on page 7. However, there is a singular adjustment and a very important adjustment that we need to make here, which is, you may remember earlier from the chapter, from our lectures titled The Ideal Arrangement, I had mentioned that the page numbers on most of the preliminary pages are blind folio, which means you count in sequence, but they are not visible on the page. That's the first point. The second point is that when they do become visible, they must appear in lowercase Roman numerals, right? Now, we don't even want to waste our time figuring out whether they will or will not show up. By habit, by typesetting habit, you need to change the page numbers of the prelims pages, because right now you have a page 1 which is showing up as the first page. That should actually look like this, and I will show you how to fix that. We return to our page layout. We right click on the first page. This time, instead of saying insert pages, we choose an option called section. In section, we get a little window that looks like this. Section start is the first change that we have to make, and the second change we have to make is in format, where we have to choose, as you can see, this is the regular 1, 2, 3, 4, this is uppercase Roman numerals, this is lowercase Roman numerals. We choose the lowercase Roman numerals and we say OK. And the minute I've done this, two changes have happened. If you notice, and if you can see on my screen, the pagination on the page layout itself, you can see my mouse hovering over the pages. The page numbers on my page layout itself have changed to lowercase Roman numerals, right? And all of them have changed. And if I come back to my document and I now zoom in on my footfolio, you'll notice that the number 1 has become a lowercase Roman numeral, so has number 2, so has number 3, and so on, right? Now, we have discussed that up to page 6 is our preliminary matter. After that, the main number 1 of the book, the regular numbering, will begin. The first chapter, the first short story, the first poem, whatever it is, will begin on page 1. You can see here that what will be my page 1 is in fact now showing up as page 7, and the numbering style has changed. It has become lowercase Roman numerals. So the second command I have to give is I go to my page 7, I right click on it again, and I again choose section. I have just told Quark that in the first instance, begin the front matter section from page 1, my half title page. Now I'm telling Quark, begin the main text section from page 7. Convert page 7 onwards into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If you understand what you're doing on the software, then you can't go wrong, right? At least, if nothing else, a book by sheer sort of default will have 2 sections. The first section was going to be the preliminary matter or the front matter. The second section is going to be the body text. You may or may not have back matter. You may or may not have references. You may or may not have a list of illustrations. But books cannot exist without section 1, which is the front matter, and section 2, which is the main text. So here on page 7, we choose section start again. And now that's the only change we need to make, because yes, the section will begin from number 1 and the format is quite correct. This is, we want regular 1, 2, 3, 4. We say OK and look at how wonderfully this, what was lowercase number 7, has now gone back to being regular number 1, which is precisely what we want. And now throughout the document, which is going to be the main text as we understand it, here we have regular numbering following, and so on till the end of the document, no matter how long the document may be. If you look at the page layout, you will notice this change in page number style is also showing up here itself. So you have a small page 1, lowercase numerals in Roman 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Front matter has ended. Main book begins with number 1. Please understand this, whether the page numbers in the front matter will show up or not. Now, there is another essential change that we make by going back. On the front matter, at least for this book, no running head. Running head will never show. Depending on how long your front matter is, sometimes page numbers may or may not show, but for this book, no running head and no folio. We will have blind folio, so we simply delete all of these manually and on the page. We just do these as what I call local changes, delete the running head, delete the foot folio. None of these pages should have a visible page number. Even if you have a contents page that overflows onto page 6, you should never ever have the page number on the contents page, even if it is a 3-page table of contents, 4-page table of contents. The logic for it is that a table of contents never lists itself. So the table of contents does not need a page number. Everything that follows the table of contents has a page number, because the page numbers are used in the table of contents to help you arrive at the page that you want to. But a table of contents never says table of contents page 5. Okay, understand the logic? And up to the table of contents, you must manually delete the page numbers. I keep harping on manually and the word locally, because they will appear by default on all the pages, whether you use Quark Express or you use InDesign, because you have structured your master page like that. Don't forget to delete them. This is vital. In today's day and age, I'm very ashamed to say that many very prominent publishing houses, sometimes I've seen in their books, when the table of contents has spilt over onto 2 pages, onto 3 pages, onto 4 pages, those pages start having the page numbers, and that is in fact quite embarrassing. It should definitely not have something. Okay, so if I now hide guides and look at what the page will look like when we print it, here we are. If you look at my screen, see how lovely that looks. Second page blank. This is my title page. See the lovely combination of the serif and the non-serif, right? We are not looking at the guides because the guides won't print. We are playing around still with the serif, non-serif combination. There is a table of contents, the numbers, and this is my prelims blank page. It's also good because it lets the eye rest after the front matter, and now then you can take a breath and launch yourself into the story. Okay, this story, when you're done with the book, done with the story, whatever it is and however long it is, we tend to scroll to the end of that particular story, and as you see has happened here, there are quite a few empty pages. It's nothing to panic. Scroll up to the last page of text and look at the page number. This page number is showing me that 28 is the last page number. So I come on my screen to my page layout. Can you see that? I pull it right to the bottom. Now, some of you may have a page layout that looks tiny like this and you're finding it hard to scroll up and down. If you can grip, you'll see if you bring your mouse and hover, if you just hover towards the right corner, the lower right corner, it changes to an arrow. Now, if you grip this arrow and pull it down, grip the arrow, pull it down, right? Grip the arrow and pull it down, you can open this window up and you can move up and down it with ease. 28 is my last page number of text. I click once on page 29. This is going to be a little complicated, so I want you to pay attention. I click once on 29, I press Shift, and then I go to the last page. If you press Shift when you select something, it lets you select multiple items at once. The clue to remembering this, the memory aid to remembering this, is Shift starts with S and it lets you select several items. Select several also starts with S, right? So choose the first blank page, which was 29. You can see here 29 is blank, and press Shift and click on the last page. Once they are all selected, you have two options. On your page layout palette, forgive me, there is a trash can. You can either click on the trash can and say, yes, I want to get rid of these extra pages. The other option is you can right click on the selection and just say delete pages. Whatever comes easier to your way of working with the software, you can either right click on the icon and say delete, or you can select all the page icons and then select the trash can and say OK. And here you'll notice all of the pages that were extra have now gone. Remember, every time you make a significant change, you must do Ctrl S so that you save the document. Now, this first chapter of the book has been set, the prelims pages are done, and we are good to go with this. From this point on, if we want, we can keep adding other chapters, other stories, using this particular chapter, using the spaces, the typeface, the model of this chapter as our template. Now, I want to just show you how sometimes in a certain kind of book, you can add a bit of visual detail. So, ordinarily, this book does not have any pictures, but as a book designer, it depends on my level of understanding the content, it depends on my level of enthusiasm for design and my levels of imagination, creativity, etc. And I want to show you something now. Here, I don't do anything on this page. I come to the spread, which is my frontispiece page and my title page. And if I so wish, what I can do is I draw. If you remember the picture box that I used, I draw a picture box. I do Command E for import picture. And this morning, before starting this lecture, I downloaded 3 pictures from the internet. One is a butterfly. Now, you'll notice only part of the butterfly is showing because it's a very big image. So, I right click on the picture box and I say scale picture to fit box, right? So, I have a butterfly here. I am keeping the images in black and white because the book will be printed with black ink. And for that printing, if I have just pictures in black, if I use my pictures also in a way that they only need black ink to print them, then it doesn't cost me extra at the printing place. I am not going to put in a picture of a multicolored butterfly because that immediately will require a color printer. The cost will go up and the publisher may not be willing to incur that extra. Now, here I have a butterfly. If I want, when I double click on a picture, it allows me to select that picture. You saw this in one lecture ago when I was bringing text into the, when I was bringing a picture onto my text. So, I can make this butterfly as big or as small as I want it to be. I can also rotate the butterfly like this if I want to pretend that it's flying. Now, can you see what's happening? The minute the butterfly is coming onto my text box, when the picture box is coming onto my text box, see, the minute it crosses the green guide, the runaround option is on this picture box. So, it is displacing my text. In order to turn that off, I go down to this bar again at the bottom. I select runaround and I say none. Now, I can push my picture box as close to the text as I want, and there is absolutely no problem. It's not displacing the text like it was. So I have a butterfly picture. I also have a bee. The subject matter here is giving me the option for a certain kind of illustration. Just as I got the butterfly, I have also now got the bee with Command E. I right click and I say scale picture to fit the box. Then I can close the box, right? Here's a bee. Please also note that this is a book for adults. So I have not got any illustration that looks like a cartoon. Okay? Cartoonish illustrations, butterflies with happy faces, bumblebees wearing party hats, etc. All these will make the book look like a children's book. So when you are choosing illustrations, please be aware of the age of the target audience. These illustrations are neutral. There are no happy faces, smiley faces. They don't look like they have been either drawn by children or that they have been drawn for children. So I can use them in this book that is going to be read primarily by adults. In the bumblebee box also, the minute I try and bring it close, you can see the runaround is still active. So it is displacing my text. I come down to the runaround option, and again from item, I say no, make the runaround none. And now I can move it as close to the text as I wish. I can have it on this side. I can also turn it around, have it at an angle like this. And the last picture that is left, which no prizes for guessing, I'm sure you all figured out what the last picture is going to be. The last picture is going to be of a crocodile. I draw a box, I do Command E for import, and there is the alligator or the crocodile sitting on my desktop from where I had downloaded it. And I right click and I say again, it's a very quick way of getting to see the whole picture in the box. Just right click and say scale picture. Scale means do it proportionately. Don't distort the image, right? Fit it proportionately. Here is my crocodile looking quite cheerful and ready to get to work. Once again, I go to run around and turn it off. And now I can have fun with the crocodile as and where I want to place it. Now you can already see one problem that is happening here, and that is exactly what I want to draw your eye to. In order to work with images, the minute we are working with pictures, we need to bring a palette open on our screen. Unlike the page layout palette, this is a different one. This is a palette called colors, and you get it from window. Choose the colors palette on the side, right? And you will get something that looks like this. Now, I want you to pay attention to the fact that the problem that I am actually having with this crocodile illustration is I want to actually bring it quite close to the name of the translator. But when I do that, the white of the box is covering up the translator's name, right? The white of the box, and I can't figure out what to do. I'm moving it this way, etc. When I try to come to the color palette is giving me three options. The color palette is saying there's a background option, there's a picture option, and you can give this box a border. These are my three options being given to me by my color palette. Now, what I actually want to do is to see if this box can be made colorless. So I select box background, I make sure the crocodile box is selected, I choose the box color, and I get a bit of a nasty surprise because Quark Express is telling me I actually haven't colored the box has no background. So now I realize what has happened, and I am going to take you now into, in fact, Photoshop, because this problem cannot be fixed from Quark. I come to my desktop. Here is my alligator drawing. You can see it selected, and I double click on it to open it in Photoshop. I wait for a few moments while Photoshop opens up. You can see this is the opening page for Photoshop. And now here is my alligator or crocodile picture. The first thing that I want you to pay attention to is that even though it looks like a grayscale image, if you look at the top of the screen, you will notice Adobe Photoshop is warning me, Adobe Photoshop is showing me that the color mode for this image is in fact RGB. You must be very, very careful with black and white images that have been downloaded from the internet, because they might look black and white to the eye, but the color mode for anything online is RGB. So, I do not want to use RGB. I want to change the color mode of this picture. Where do I go? I go to the top to image. I go to the top to image and I choose mode. I have deliberately been using the word color mode so that it helps you remember and make connections with the software that you are using. I go to image, I go to mode, and I choose grayscale. The software terminology for black and white is grayscale. I choose grayscale. That is my first adjustment, right? My second adjustment also from image is to check the size. You will remember that I have downloaded this from the internet, and you'll also, if you do remember from a few lectures ago, I had mentioned that the default resolution, the minimum resolution for images to be used in a print publication, whatever the publication may be, it could be a poster, a music album cover, a greeting card, a visiting card, it could be a letterhead that you're designing, anything that you're designing that will be printed eventually on paper. The resolution, do you remember, if some of you might recall, I had drawn a square and I had put lots of dots in it, and I had said 300 dpi is 300 dots per inch, and 72 is often the dpi that is available on the internet, which means you're going to get a very pixelated or very low resolution figure. This figure, when I'm checking from image size, I can see it is 300 dpi and it is therefore all right. The image, if I can look at the size, yes, so can you. It's 4.3 inches by 4.2 inches, which for the kind of use that we are planning, we basically want to have it, as a detail, just appearing here and there on the page, sitting on the title page. 4 by 4 or 4.3 by 4.3 is more than enough. We don't need a huge image. This is done. So first we have checked image, mode, and we have made it grayscale because this is a black and white picture. Then again from image, we have gone to size and double checked the resolution. There is one last change now left to do. We go to file and we say save as, and now you will realize why I say save as. The format that I choose is TIFF. The format that I choose is TIFF because all the other formats, JPEG, GIF, PNG, SVG, all of those are compressed formats. Those formats are great for images to be loaded online. Those formats are great for images to be sent as email attachments. Those formats are great when you're trying to get an image for, you want to send it on WhatsApp, you want to put it up on Instagram, all of that is super. But when we go to print, we must have an absolutely uncompressed version of the picture, and that can be ensured if you save it as TIFF. Also, another word of advice, sometimes I like to give my files a better name than often the very confused name that comes from the internet. In this case, I will just say alligator01 because often I might later download alligator 2, alligator 3, alligator 4, alligator 5 and so on. And then even many years later, when I'm working on a completely different book, I might have need for my alligator pictures. I may not remember where they are, but I might remember that yes, for a book many days ago, many years ago, many months ago, I had downloaded a variety of alligator pictures, but how do I find them? I don't remember the name of the book. I don't remember the name of the project. In that case, what I do then often is in the computer, I look up on the magnifying glass as you can see. If you click here and you type, this is of course on a certain system, but it will be present in all systems. If you say alligator, and then if you scroll over the search results, wherever the alligator is in your machine, it will show up all those beautiful alligator pictures, and in fact it will even show them up in sequence as alligator 1, alligator 2, alligator 3, alligator 4. So this is a practice of putting what I call generic names. As you go along designing, you will have pattern 1, pattern 2, pattern 3. It could be water 1, water 2, paper texture 1, paper texture 2, and so on. So get used to relabeling your files. Sometimes they come with very strange names from the internet. Sometimes they don't even have any alphabets. They just have random, numbers and letters and things like that. You will not be able to find that picture, because the only way to search for an image on your computer is if you use at least a part of the file name, right? Now this I have saved as a TIFF. I'm not sure if I saved it on my desktop. I will just double check. Save as alligator 1. Yes, it's right there. I can see that. So in fact, I've saved as TIFF. And when you say save, it gives you another option of a window that looks like this. The most important thing you have to keep a lookout is image compression should be none. Do not even engage with the right hand side. It's completely unnecessary. Look at image compression and make sure it says none. Say OK, and we have saved this now in the grayscale mode, right? When I come back to my desktop, I don't even want to keep the JPEG. I don't want to keep that RGB file. So I right click on it and I just say move that file into the bin. Just trash it, just delete it. I don't want to bring it into my design even by accident, okay? I also do the same for the butterfly. Now you'll notice this butterfly has opened up in a very weird way. You can see a sort of gray and white checked background appearing at the back of this butterfly. This butterfly is being read by Photoshop as a transparency. Photoshop displays the transparency by showing you that checked tablecloth-like effect. The first thing that you should do in a situation like this is go to layer and say flatten image, and a nice white background will appear. If you feel the image edges are too close, you can simply open the crop box and the white background becomes a little enhanced, giving you some breathing space to the image. You can readjust it, and then if you press enter, it crops. This picture also is showing up as RGB. So I go to image, I go to mode, and I save as grayscale. I need to check the size. So I come to image and I come to size, and I discover to my great worry that this image is a 72 dpi image. There will be other changes that I wish to make to this. They are slightly complicated. I will for the time being conclude this lecture here, and in my next lecture I will begin by explaining the scientific way in which 72 dpi images may be converted to usable 300 dpi images.
Hi, I'm Chitwan Lalji, a PhD student of Health Economics under the supervision of Dr. Debayan Pakrashi from the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences, IIT Kanpur. in one of my essays, I'm interested in understanding the relationship between consumption of fruits and vegetables and various health indicators. Health indicators, both subjective and objective health indicators like mental health, self-assessed health, various measures of blood pressure and various measures of cholesterol. Measures of blood pressure like systolic and diastolic BP. You have your incidence of high BP, MAP and incidence of high MAP. And as far as cholesterol is concerned, I have tried to concentrate more on total cholesterol, good cholesterol and incidence of high cholesterol. Now before I go on to what have been my major contributions and various policy implications, I would like to briefly tell you about the policy initiatives of WHO and various countries. The WHO, that is the World Health Organization, it started with a campaign of 5 a day. That is, you should have 5 portions of fruits and vegetables per day. That would be approximately, you could say, 400 grams of fruits and vegetables. Now, a portion, before we go further, I'll just tell you what exactly is a portion. One portion is equivalent to a medium-sized apple, or one small glass of fruit juice, which is approximately 150 milliliters, and maybe 3 teaspoons of vegetables. So, the WHO went with the 5 a day campaign, which was further taken up by various countries. Countries like UK, Netherlands, Germany, Norway, they adopted the 5 a day policy, while some went for expansionary dietary policies like France, Australia, Canada, Denmark. So, for example, Australia, it went for 2+5 policy, in which it said that you should consume 2 portions of fruits and 5 portions of vegetables per day. And USA went for a policy of fruits and vegetables more matters. That is, you must consume more and more fruits and vegetables. Now, irrespective of these expansionary dietary policies and dietary propagations, it has been found that only 28% of women and 25% of men, they actually meet the recommended dietary norms of 5 a day portion. So, the major contribution of my work is firstly to find an association between fruits and vegetables, whether there exists a relationship between fruits and vegetables and health indicators, and if they exist, whether due to heterogeneity in the data, so I will be doing it according to age, by gender and by your weight. So, apart from that, I will go for policy recommendations, in which I am basically studying how much fruits and vegetables matter. Apart from that, which type matters more. So, for that, I have taken data from the Health Survey of England. Health Survey of England is an annual survey which takes data, which conducts information regularly on demographic and socioeconomic characteristics. You have your lifestyle behaviors like an individual smokes or doesn't smoke, alcohol consumption, you have your sedentary and physical activities, and you have various health indicators also which have been collected. Before I go on to what exactly is my research, I would like to concentrate more on fruits and vegetables, like what kind of questions were asked in the survey. Questions like, what kind of fresh fruit do you eat? Did you eat any dried fruit yesterday? Don't count dried fruits in cereals, cakes. Apart from that, for vegetables, they asked how many tablespoons of vegetables did you eat yesterday? So, approximately after this whole survey was conducted, data was converted into portions of fruits, and like for example, 3 tablespoons of vegetables is equivalent to 1 portion. So, data was converted and provided to the users, that is us, from the UK Data Health Survey. So, the major contributions of my paper is that I found a strong negative association between intake of fruits and self-assessed health, then various measures of blood pressure like mean arterial pressure, high mean arterial pressure, high blood pressure, systolic and diastolic BP, and your total cholesterol. Apart from that, I have found a strong positive association between consumption of vegetables and good cholesterol. So, it is recommended in a way that if you want to control your blood pressure, you must consume more and more fruits. And as far as vegetables are concerned, they impact your good cholesterol. Apart from that, I went in for a falsification test. A falsification test is basically conducted to know whether the model that you have adopted and the conclusions that you are drawing are not spurious. So, if a falsification test is done to know, in a way it is tested by seeing an indicator, a health indicator which is not being impacted by your consumption of fruits and vegetables, and then we see whether there is significant result or not. If there is no significant result, that means your model is good and your results are non-spurious. So what we did is, for falsification test, we took ear complaints and infectious diseases. Now ear complaints, like if you are deaf since birth or you have some kind of imbalance, body imbalance, that is not being impacted by your consumption of fruits and vegetables, and we did find insignificant results. Apart from that, infectious diseases like HIV, AIDS, etc., we found similar insignificant results, indicating that our results are not non-spurious. Apart from that, we went, since there was a lot of heterogeneity in the data, like by gender, by age and by weight, we did the regression analysis. We found results which stated that as far as fruits are concerned, it impacts a male's health more than a female's health. So it is basically said a man should consume more fruits to impact his health, whereas as far as vegetables are concerned, they impact a woman's health more. But this has been only seen as far as cholesterol is concerned, the various measures of cholesterol like total cholesterol, good cholesterol and your incidence of getting high cholesterol. Now after this, we went in for a policy implication, and in the policy implication we tried to find two policy implications: what matters and exactly how much portion matters. So as far as how much portion matters, we have found that on an average 5 or more portions of fruits impact your overall health, that is your self-assessed health, your MAP, your incidence of high MAP and incidence of high BP. But if you want to have a good mental health, so you can optimize your mental health by consuming 3 or 4 portions of fruits as well. And similarly, as far as self-assessed health and total cholesterol is concerned, an individual must consume 4 to 5 portions to optimally have the impact of consumption of fruits. Apart from that, vegetables have had a very little impact on your health. It only impacts your incidence of getting high MAP and high BP, and it's seen that only it impacts when you consume 5 or more portions of fruits. So an optimum consumption of 5 or more portions of fruits and vegetables are recommended, but fruits have a more impact on your overall health on various measures like self-assessed health, mental health, your various measures of blood pressure and various cholesterol levels. Another thing that we find is which type of fruit matters. It has been seen that all size fruits, they impact your self-assessed health, your systolic and diastolic blood pressure, your mean arterial pressure, your high BP and incidence of getting high MAP and high cholesterol. But we find that as far as frozen fruits or canned fruits are concerned, they help in regulating your incidence of getting high MAP or high BP, but it has a trade-off. That means there is something negative happening. It reduces the good cholesterol in your body. Apart from this, if you have an incidence of getting high cholesterol, it is recommended that you must consume fruit juices because it has a impact in reducing your probability of getting high cholesterol. And dried fruits, they impact your self-assessed health. As far as vegetables are concerned, very little impact has been seen. It has only been seen in case of portion of salads and its association with self-assessed health. Another thing that they have seen is vegetables in composite, they have an association with good cholesterol. So overall, my research basically says that there is an association between consumption of fruits and vegetables and various health indicators, and it is highly recommended that an individual, in order to be healthy, must consume 5 or more portions of fruits and 5 or more portions of vegetables per day, but fruits have a more impact on your overall health. Apart from that, all size fruits, they have a better impact on your overall health, your mental health, various measures of blood pressure and cholesterol. So, thank you.
Hello, I am A.K. Sharma and I teach sociology in IIT Kanpur. I am going to discuss a question which is frequently posed to sociologists, and that is, what is the role of sociology in policy making? Now, so far in our country and also in the world, in World Bank, in UN organizations, in Population Council. Planning is seen as something for which economists are particularly trained, and very few sociologists were found in planning process. Planning was given to statisticians and to economists. But now gradually planners and states are realizing that sociologists have a very important contribution to make to planning process. What can sociologists do to planning? Sociologists can pose problems. Sociology can identify which problems of society need priority or greater intervention. Like Indian society may be suffering from thousands of problems, but since solution of problem requires expenditure of resources in terms of time, money and manpower, all the problems cannot be solved, or we cannot focus on all the problems. Do you know that our national health plan focuses only on 15% of the diseases from which people in India die? It is not possible to cover all 100% diseases in the program. Program means resources. So, sociologists can help us by conducting surveys, by talking to people, by doing field work, that from people's perspective which problems need to be given greater attention. Then sociologists can also help the planners in understanding various dimensions of the problem. Suppose you are trying to solve the problem of why in India maternal mortality rate is high. We know that maternal mortality rate means rate of deaths among women associated with childbirth is particularly high. Sociologists tell them that this problem is not going to be solved simply through health intervention. We have to look at things in entirety or totality, or what we call holistically, and we have to understand that India has a patriarchal system in which in rural areas particularly value of life of a woman is very little. This is one meaning of patriarchy. So, if you do not care about your women, you will not take them to health center also. There is a problem of transportation, there is a problem of ignorance. People do not know the danger signs, people do not go to ashas, people do not go for ANC, people do not understand the danger signs. There are several danger signs which everybody should be able to know if a woman in the family becomes pregnant. Sociologists tell that apart from health interventions, you require other interventions also: education, empowerment, power of women in decision making, nutrition, control of stress. The sociologists can tell the planners all these. And one important role that sociologists can play in planning process is by involving in monitoring and evaluation of development programs. From time to time government launches various programs for the benefit of people, like you all have heard about Manrega, Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Scheme or Act, Manrega, A for Act as scheme, or other welfare programs. We sociologists can conduct studies and tell to what extent goals of these programs have been attained and what are the bottlenecks or what needs to be done in the future to improve the effectiveness and efficiency. Effectiveness means reach, efficiency means cost benefit ratio, how to improve effectiveness and efficiency of the program. And are there some specific groups where some specific intervention is to be launched to make these programs successful. Something which can work in Delhi may not work in remote tribal areas of Chhattisgarh. So, sociologists help the planners in evolving area specific approach to implementation of their development programs. These days an interesting branch of sociology called reflexive sociology can also help the planners in understanding if the methods that they are using to solve the existing problems, they are themselves going to create new kinds of problems in the future. Reflexive sociology is about understanding the ill consequences of interventions launched by the government or NGOs or by civil society in the interest of society. You know, something which we do for improvement or in the interest of society can also create problems. Bureaucracy, for example, created the problem of red tapeism, and health programs led to population crisis, urbanization led to alienation, and development produced the environmental problem. So, reflexive sociology can help you in anticipating if your solutions are going to create new problems and how to deal with them. Thank you.